So today, the officer in South Carolina was terminated by the sheriff, who decided that based on his conduct and the fact that he did not follow procedure and policy, he should be terminated. And kudos, I agree. One of the things that I was bothered by that the sheriff said was that initially the young girl reported that there were no injuries, or her family reported that she had not sustained any injuries, and that now that attorneys are involved, she's injured. Pump the brakes. Let's just talk about what injury is. Injury is anything that causes pain or suffering to your mind, body, or spirit. I watched the video for myself, and as the officer who, according to what the sheriff said, was following procedure and trying to remove her from the chair, to remove her from the classroom because she refused to leave on her own, he aggressively removed her from that chair. And what happened, what I saw, was that she was in a chair that's enclosed with the desk, a classroom chair that has a partial desk in front of it, which would block her body. So when he went to grab her from the opposite side, which was the closed side, the chair came with her and it flipped over. And when it flipped over, it caused her body to flip over inside of this metal fixed thing, a chair. I can't hardly stomp my toe without experiencing pain. I mean, if I bump my knee on the edge of a table, I get pain. I get a little bruise or something. I couldn't imagine being flipped over in a chair. Thank God her neck wasn't broken, her collarbone, her back, her arms, because she could have very likely experienced breaks. But even if you don't have a broken bone, there are contusions and sprains and things that happen when your body is abruptly thrown. Even in a car accident, people sue all the time for that thing called whiplash, where the car jerks and you kind of jerk your neck suddenly and it causes excruciating pain. It's true. I've moved my head the wrong way and experienced excruciating pain. I'm older, and of course, I have underlying conditions with my muscles and joints, but just a normal healthy person, just an average person, can experience pain that carries on for weeks and months because of a simple injury. So to assume that she wasn't injured is ridiculous. Sometimes you don't feel pain right away, you feel it later. And then you report later, oh my God, I feel like I've been hit by a Mack truck, because it takes time for the muscles to really realize what has happened, and it's shocking to that muscle, and then the pain sets in, and then you realize that you have all of these knots and bruises and swelling on the inside that you've got to recover from. Okay, that's physical. If anyone threw me over in a chair to try to remove me from the chair, I don't even like rides in the amusement park. I couldn't imagine being flipped over in a chair like that. I know that I would be scared. I would experience anxiety. I would fear for my life. I would wonder if my neck is about to break. I would be mortified if someone flipped me over in a chair as if on a Ferris wheel or something when I didn't sign up for it. I would also brace myself and hold on to that chair for dear life, assuming that it would hold me a little bit from the impact of what's taking place. So somebody grabs your chair, the first thing you do is hold on and try to brace yourself, okay? So that right there alone is cause for injury. It's called anxiety. It's called fear. It's called, sudden assault to your mind, body, and spirit. Spiritually, I'm sure as a citizen with rights, she felt spiritually broken by an adult, not only an adult, a law enforcement officer that has now become violent towards her, and then he throws her across the room. I get why he's fired. But the remark about There was no injury until attorneys got involved. Sometimes people don't even realize how injured they are until they go to sleep, and then they start having nightmares, and they go to sleep and they wake up in cold sweats, and they go to sleep and they wake up crying, and they realize that they've been injured somewhere that they can't see or didn't even know about. I'm really bothered by that. And then to criminalize her or any of the other kids involved, I don't know honestly what the involvement was of the other children, but I'm sure they came up in her defense to try to prevent her from being brutalized by a police officer, because let's face it, Black folks have been under attack. We have been experiencing so many things negative in our interaction with police officers till it's not even funny. And you can't even argue that it's not real and it's not happening and that it doesn't exist. We are being profiled and we are experiencing police brutality at higher rates than any other race. And it's not just injury, it's winding up a fatality. People are dying in the hands of police officers. It's not to say that there aren't good police officers. Many are, maybe most are, but there are the animals out there that should not be or become or remain police officers because they have issues and they need to be healed and delivered and cured and treated for whatever it is that is resting behind the bully that's in them. He may be a nice person in some respects, but in another respect, he's a little time bomb waiting to explode. Horrible and deplorable behavior. Yes, he should not be a police officer. He should pick a different career path. And maybe his career path might be going to school and learning how to communicate to officers about their temperament and make a career out of counseling people your own kind. Get over it and then become an expert at helping people get through it, because it's not right. It's not fair. I was pleased to hear the mayor weigh in this morning when I was watching the news. And he said, I watched it for myself and I was afraid. I have 2 children myself. I was afraid for my children, afraid for myself to know that police officers are moving like this. This could touch him. It could touch his kids, his life. You just never know how it's going to come. But I want to say this too. On the flip side, if that same young girl had been disciplined by her mother or father for not behaving and flipped over in a chair and thrown across the room, the parents would be in jail for child abuse. If the same girl was assaulted by another student that flipped her over in a chair because she was running off at the mouth or whatever and threw her across the room, that student would be suspended, expelled, or transferred to another school and maybe brought up on charges. So they want to, on one hand, criminalize the little girl and then say that it doesn't warrant, a federal case. We're moving too fast because the officer did nothing criminal. He was responding to the call of duty. Well, if anyone knows the law better than anybody, it ought to be the law. So you're very clear on what you're breaking. You're breaking your own code of conduct. You are not, under any circumstances, supposed to treat someone's child like that, let alone an adult. Now imagine if that had been his kid and he saw an officer treating his kid like that, how he would have responded to that. I saw a woman on the news and she was in the car with her son. She looked to be like between 40s and 50s, a middle-aged Caucasian woman. Not pointing her out because of her, I'm just giving you a full description. And she felt like the officer had done everything that he should have done and what he was supposed to do, and nothing was done wrong. And I said to myself, yeah, that's because your son is sitting across from you and he's fine. But if an officer, particularly a Black officer, when we want to get into the difference of races, and you wouldn't appreciate somebody's Black officer or a white one or an Indian one or an Asian one, you wouldn't want an officer laying hands on your son and being told, well, this is what we had to do because your son wouldn't cooperate. Thank God for cell phones. Aren't you glad that we all have these cell phones and we can just hit record and get the evidence that we once couldn't get? Because what happens is, administration lines up and supports one another and plays games to act like what you went through you didn't go through and that you did more than you did. You know, did she have a weapon? No. Did she beat up the officer? No. Did she spit in his face and try to scratch his eyes out? No. Do not pass go. If the officer winds up facing charges, he bought them. And that's how I feel. In all cases, I pray for the betterment and the best outcome for everybody, that he won't necessarily have to go through something that is not ordained by God, and that he may get the counseling that he needs and be restored as a respective citizen. I think he owes the little girl and her family an apology. I think any charges against the kids should be dropped. It was traumatic, and they are kids, and they're operating in the mindset of children. They're not as mature as an adult, depending on the adult. We're praying for them too. And so they are little children, and when we're young, we do as young people do. And when we get older, we put away those foolish behaviors and mannerisms and conversations, and we become mature adults, you know? So I pray that God exercises his divine intention in this whole thing. In all things, there's always an outcome that is better than anything we can imagine when we allow God to take control. And this was wrong. Very, very wrong. So I'm praying for this little girl, that she is not going through in her mind, body, and spirit all across the board, and that whatever help she needs to get through this, she gets it. And then in terms of her being disrespectful, hey, I've been disrespectful before. As a kid, I was the class clown. I was the one that wanted to make everybody laugh in class, and then, you know, kind of act like I wasn't doing nothing when the teacher turned around. You know, she just, you know what she did? She took my desk and she put my desk right next to hers, and we became best buddies. That's the kind of intervention. Sometimes kids just need attention. Maybe I needed attention. Maybe she needed attention. Maybe she needed a conversation after class with the instructor to talk about why she's acting out and what she's missing. And perhaps if you want to be a superstar, we can get you in some acting classes. Whatever you want, you know, you're seeking attention from your classmates to make them laugh. There's a way to channel behavior. We don't always take the fact that someone has an area that needs to be developed and use it as a weapon against them. No, use it as an opportunity to develop them. Teachers, I hope you're listening. Officers, I hope you're listening. Family members, I hope you're listening. When kids act out, sometimes it is evidence that they are crying out to do something or to become something without the means to do and become it. So we can help them by supporting what their dreams are and getting them where they need to be. I'm Sonya Ward. Thank you for listening and stopping by. I'm out.